Chapter 6: The Lost Child. That morning was no different from the other mornings since the city collapsed. The sky was still a dense, leaden gray, heavy with smoke and ash, and the ground was split open as if the planet itself were gasping under the burden of an endless war. Kael stepped out of his makeshift shelter. Kael rummaged through collapsed concrete blocks, blackened metal husks that had once been civilian vehicles, and rooms with half their roofs blown away where the wind carried the mixed stench of burned metal and decomposing flesh. He searched for anything that could be eaten, traded, or at the very least used as a weapon. His hands moved skillfully and coldly, as if he had been doing this his entire life, even though in reality only a few months earlier he had still been an ordinary man with a family, a dinner table, and quiet evenings. That was when he heard very light footsteps, not the scraping sound of raiders, nor the clumsy dragging of the wounded, but a small, slow rhythm, unhidden, unguarded. A sound so out of place that Kael stopped immediately. He pressed his back against a broken wall, his hand tightening around the sharp-edged metal bar he used in place of a knife. His heartbeat slowed, his breathing was held back. In that moment, an old instinct rose up, the instinct that had kept him alive for weeks, that if something stepped out of the darkness, he would strike first, without hesitation. Then the girl appeared. So small she almost vanished among the ruins, her clothes dusty and torn at the hems, her hair matted with smoke and sweat, yet her eyes were strangely bright. She walked slowly, clutching a small cloth bundle tightly against her chest, as if afraid that loosening her grip even slightly would cause the world to take away the last thing she had left. Kael raised his hand reflexively, his body already ready to lunge. But the child was not afraid. She stopped a few steps away, tilted her head, and looked at him as if trying to recognize something familiar, then spoke in a hoarse but calm voice. "Uncle, are you lost too?" The question struck Kael harder than any gunshot. For a moment he forgot to attack, forgot even to hide his eyes. There was no fear in her gaze, no pleading, no caution, only a childish weariness, and a naive assumption that the person standing before her was simply another lost soul like herself. Kael did not answer immediately. His hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but because distant memories from another time were struggling to surface from the depths of his mind. Warm dinners, laughter in a small room, and a sense of safety whose shape he could no longer clearly remember. "I'm looking for food," the girl continued, as if afraid the silence would make the man in front of her disappear. "My mother is very hungry." She bent down and opened the cloth bundle, revealing a few crumbled pieces of dried food, perhaps the last things she had been able to find in this wasteland. Then, with a gesture so natural it was painful to see, she broke off the smallest piece and held it out toward Kael. "Uncle, eat it. I still have a little left." Something inside Kael broke. Not loudly, not violently, but quietly, like a crack slowly spreading through thick ice. He looked at the piece of food, at the tiny hands offering it, and for the first time in a very long while, he did not know how to react. He had killed to live. He had abandoned those who begged. He had stepped over corpses to escape. And yet now, a child, a being so weak she could not survive even a single day if this world were truly fair, was sharing her means of survival with him. Kael slowly knelt down, not because he was tired, but because his knees suddenly refused to obey. He did not take the food right away, only looked at the girl carefully, as if afraid that if he blinked, the image would disappear. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice rough. "Elia," the girl replied, smiling very faintly. "And yours?" Kael was silent for a long breath. His name, something that had once belonged to a different life, sounded so unfamiliar that it took him a few seconds to say it. "Kael." Elia nodded, as if the name meant something to her, then turned and gestured for him to follow. "My mother is over there. She's very tired." Kael stood still for a second, then followed, feeling as if an invisible force, one whose name he had long forgotten, was pulling him along. They passed collapsed walls and dust-filled alleys until they stopped in front of a slanted fragment of broken wall, where a gaunt woman was leaning back, her breathing weak, her eyes dim but lighting up when she saw her daughter. In that moment, Kael understood what made his chest tighten. In the middle of this hell, amid blood and fire and despair, there still existed something he had lost long ago. a fragile thread connecting one human to another, not through strength, but through trust. And that thing, rather than violence or survival, was the most dangerous of all for someone who had grown used to living as he had. Because from that moment on, Kael knew that if this world demanded to take something from him next, it would not do so easily.